Hey, Zeke here with Radical Hospitality. I posted a video yesterday about how we built up equity over a period of time, building and renovating houses and increasing our net worth through doing that. I got a great question back from my nephew. Hey, once I build up all that equity in a house, how do I get it out? And to answer that question, I want to kind of back up a little bit because when we're graduating high school, I think we're only taught about one form of equity, and that's cash. But cash is a really poor storage of equity. What happens is when we start working in life, we go and we get a job and they pay us some cash. And as we take that cash, it seems great at first, and we've got some, cash in our bucket in our bank account. The problem is we don't see what's happening is a lot of people have straws in our cash bucket. And so you have to eat, and that begins to suck it out. And you have to go and pay for car insurance, and that begins to suck it out. And then you have to get rent, and that begins to suck it out. And then there's this crazy thing called appreciation, and our cash is actually losing value as time goes on because of what the U.S. government does to depreciate the value of our cash. And so although you need cash and you need an account to survive and eat and pay for your mortgage, it's a really poor storage equity. So one thing I began to learn early on is that you need to pour some of your cash into your account, but you also need to be putting your equity in a better container and taking some of your cash that you're earning each month and putting it in a container that doesn't have holes in the bucket. There's a lot of different forms of doing that. Some are good, like a savings account, as long as you're not reaching in there. But part of the problem, with the savings account, when things get empty, you reach over and you stick your hand in your own savings account. So you can do things like CDs, and that helps put a lid on it, and you store your equity in there. Maybe you get a 6-month CD and you can't get it for 6 months. And that's probably better than having it open to where when emergencies happen, you can reach in and grab it. But there's a better form of storage. And those are, wouldn't it be great if I put something in my storage container and it actually grew? Farmers have had it figured out for a long time. And another form of equity would be like seeds. You plant those in the ground, and over time, it grows into a plant. So real estate is one of those seeds. It's hard to get out, but if you let time do its thing and you continue to water it and nurture it, it'll continue to grow. So this comes back to a better scoreboard. Oftentimes in life, when we come out, we're looking at our bank account as our scoreboard, and that's not a very good measurement or scoreboard. A better measurement or scoreboard is your net worth. And I began to track this in my early 30s, I'm going to say, because I was a little bit of a slow learner, and I wish I would have learned this in my 20s. So net worth equals assets minus liabilities. And net worth is a better measurement of your true cash, of your true equity. Okay. And so let me show you what I mean. So assets are things like homes, bank accounts, savings accounts. And those are kind of the top of the bucket. These are assets that grow and can grow. There's other forms of assets, depending on how this is measured, that are also assets. Cars can be assets. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit. Some people might disagree on that. Land. Okay, so these are all gold. These are all storage of wealth. Now, on the upper end of assets is a definition I really like, and that a lot of you guys might know, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So he always says assets are things that put money in your pocket, and liabilities are things that take money away. So that's how Robert Kiyosaki frames it, and that's a mindset. This is how a bank looking at your net worth would frame it. Because homes appreciate, but you also have to pay into them every month. A better type of home would be investment real estate at kind of the top of the pyramid. And so investment real estate, similar to a home, is growing in value, but the benefit of investment real estate is someone is also paying your mortgage for you. So they're paying down your mortgage and it's putting money in your pocket every month. And it is hard to get that money out of. So on the other side of the equation is liabilities. And these are some clear things that take money out of your pocket. So on the home side, you'd have mortgages. So that's the liability of the home. You would have, could be rent, student loans, credit cards. So these are all things that are taking money out of your pocket, clearly. On a spreadsheet, what happens when the first thing you get out of high school, you go to college. I remember being met the day I walked onto the college campus by a guy giving away free pizza in exchange for me taking out a credit card. And immediately you begin to line up check boxes in your liabilities. You need to pay for, your student housing. So you have rent. You begin to want to take out, credit cards in your name. So all of these things start to stack against you really quickly. And, before you realize it, you're in a negative net worth. You may owe more than what you actually had in your asset column. Okay. So I'm going to share a screen real quick. So this is a simple net worth tracking spreadsheet from Money Under 30. You can go there and download that. And what I like about this, and I've used a similar one to track our net worth, is this has time across the top. And I've actually done this for a little over 10 years. And when I started, I had more liabilities than I had assets because we had student loans, we had mortgages, and my net worth was in the negative. As I've continued to watch this number and see what really affects, this is a better measurement of your equity than just looking at your bank account, because you're storing your equity in things that have the ability to grow, like the seeds. So talking about real estate, equity of your real estate would be, in this case, 165 minus 152. And so, what would that be? $13,000. And you can see as time is moving on, he's paying down this mortgage. And so the value will continue to increase over time, slowly. He's also paying this down. And so his equity is increasing over time. So that's like a forced savings account. Now, if this was being paid down by a renter, then that would be an even higher form of a asset. So I would encourage you or anybody to do this over time and, track your scoreboard of how you're doing in your financial life. Now, I want to go back to the original question. I've done all this work and you've built up equity into your home renovation. How do you access that capital? And the answer is you don't. So, and here's the reason. So you're going to continue to work your W-2 job and you're going to continue to pour that, into your daily life expenses. And that's going to continue to be your leaky bucket. And you know what? If you want to have a bigger, fancier car, then, you learn how to earn more and just, continue to pour that in here. But what you're going to do on your assets over life is you're going to start building up those assets and growing and putting some of your cash into this until eventually you've saved up enough assets that those start to overflow. And without doing more work, this becomes your passive income. And that overflow in rents and interest rates and stock performances eventually will be big enough that is what you will be able to live off of. But remember, you're a steward of all of this. God gives us things in life that we get to steward. And depending on how well we steward those, he gives us more to steward. And so, live off of what you need to, and invest and save the rest. And eventually the interest and the rent payments off of your assets you're building up. And that is a better storage of wealth, because that storage will grow. Now, if we want to talk about better storage, is go back to what Jesus says: invest in things in heaven and not on earth, because those are for eternity. But for the time period, I think God has just learned, he's working to help us stretch how far out we see. Because if we see from food to mouth, that's a shorter period. When we start to learn to invest longer for tomorrow, that's a longer period. And eventually, I think he is stretching us to think and operate in eternity and invest in things of heaven. So take these steps, and it's all okay. You don't have to give everything away to charity when you're starting up. These are lessons that he gave the talents for us to invest while we're here, and do a good job doing that. Just learn to stretch your thinking of it. And so, book I would highly recommend reading is Invest in Real Estate with No and Low Money Down by Brandon Turner. There is dozens of methods in here on how to then begin to access that equity and use that to continue to grow your real estate portfolio, which is the goal. You're building up a longer term legacy of wealth. So we talked in the first video about doing 203K loans, and how to add value to the things that you're buying, not just move into a perfect ready house. The next step would be, start to look at partnerships. There's a lot of people out there that, believe it or not, have made wealth through real estate, and they love teaching the next generation. And they're looking for people who are willing to hustle, willing to put in their own time and sweat, as well as to put in, their own equity into projects. And so that is a great place is start to get mentorship. And if you can show that you have invested in real estate by doing your own house hack, and creating equity there, then that is a great place to start when you start to talk to partnerships. Next level to look at is home equity loans and lines of credit. If you have built up enough equity in your home, then you can borrow against that. You can use that to buy real estate. That has its ups and downs. You are borrowing. I come back to this first strategy. Now, if you built your first home, especially when you're young, don't get stuck in that first house. Build it, develop it, sell it in 2 years, and then take some of that cash and put it into your next place. And maybe you take some of that cash and put it into a rental. Hard money. Be careful of this. This is a method, and you will need to show that you have some experience with equity and net worth to be able to handle this. We have done this with new construction and renovations. It will force you to learn to underwrite properties and make sure when you're evaluating rental properties or fix and flips that they make money on the backside, and then you will pay higher interest rate and points. And so this helps you buy real estate with low or no money down using hard money. So I'm not going to go through every strategy, but I promise you, if you build up some equity in your first deal, you can use that to begin to, over time, develop your real estate portfolio and store that equity, that net worth, that wealth in a better long-term container. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Pick up this book, read through that, and then let's chat.